Next up on the broadcast, Representative Lynn Greer of Rogersville is back in studio with us. Representative, nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Capitol Journal.
Glad to be back.
Representative, you chaired the Utilities, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee in the House, and you've had a lot of work to do during this special legislative session, given the gas tax has been the issue du jour, so to speak. Let's talk, first of all, about your support of the gas tax. Was it an easy decision, given the controversial nature of a tax increase?
Well, it's always tough to vote for a tax, especially a gas tax. And, you know, it had been since 1992, since this legislature last voted for one. Now, we've had them before. Over the past 4 or 5 years, we've had bills, but this is going to be the first one that ever got through. So it's tough, yes. Especially for the new members. You can imagine what it'd be like.
Sure. I think it's been pointed to a lot during this debate. New members show up and their first vote is on a tax increase. That's a tough thing.
Yeah, I was thinking last week when we had the first committee meeting that you had all these freshmen, and it's the third day in session, first committee meeting, and the first bill up was a gas tax. So that makes it tough.
Sure. As chairman of the Utilities, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee, the gas tax passed your committee unanimously last week, but I know you have gotten a lot of feedback from constituents, from colleagues. I think you said at one point your phone literally froze up. It was so full of calls and messages. Well,
that's true, and no way in the world to respond to all of those. You know, I don't know how many hundred I was having a day, and they were going into the night and early morning. But you know, you try to deal with people. But I found that the groups that I could talk to, you know, you can be surprised. You win them over. I had calls today where people came out strong against the gas tax, but when you explain what's going on and they get to know what we know, and that's the problem we've had. We were not able to sell it, you know, not make people aware statewide of what we're facing in this state, but. The day has come when we had to step up to the plate and do something.
Well, we had Governor Ivey on the show Friday night, and she said pretty much the same thing. She said to those lawmakers who said they have to answer to their constituents, they need to make sure that they share with their constituents all the information that they have about this tax and the good that it will do for the state, because they have information that their constituents don't. Did you find that to be especially?
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's like I say, if they knew what we knew, I'm not saying all of them would support a gas tax, but I think the majority would. And we're working in the best interest of the citizens of our district and the whole state of Alabama. And you know, she's done an excellent job presenting it. And some of us, I know up in my area, last 2 years ago, we sat down with her, and she brought Toyota Mazda into Limestone County, and they were made a lot of promises, and we just couldn't walk off and leave her. You know, those promises got to be met, and we got to have some money to meet them. But you're talking about up that area. I think the two areas that are going to make out big time are the Limestone, Madison County area, and Mobile. You know, with the tunnel. I mean the
port.
The port, yeah.
Was this an easy decision for you to make, Representative, to support this gas tax?
Well, I think it'd been hard to vote against. You know, knowing what I know and knowing the jobs that we're bringing into Alabama, and you know, we've had a good several years. It's unbelievable how the state is progressing, and we can't stop now. But we're at the point in time, and one thing that made it easy, I get on the interstate when I come down here in Athens, exit 351, and that first 10, 12 miles, you got to be careful. I mean, it's so terrible on I-65 that, you know, you got to be careful. And there are areas north of Birmingham the same way. And then I've told groups over the last couple of years, I've had 2 right front ends knocked out of alignment, hitting potholes. So it's you know, you can get in trouble in a hurry. But I think in the long haul, it was not all that difficult for me.
There are those, of course, who have argued during this debate that there are other ways the state could accomplish what it wants to under this infrastructure plan, like cutting out wasteful spending in other areas, making better use of existing transportation funds. Do you agree, or would that have gone nearly as far as the gas tax would?
That would not go nearly as far. You know, over the last few years, we've abolished about 6,000 state jobs. That's a tremendous impact on this state. That helps some, but you know, the money is just not there. The infrastructure money is just not there. Do what we need to do to keep the state growing in the manner that it is growing. So, I think, the time came when we had to step up to the plate and do something.
Does it put you in a particular spot, given that, most voters will agree that something needs to be done about our roads and bridges? They just don't think that a tax increase is the answer.
Well, we had large groups that were saying takes tax off of groceries if you're going to put it on highways. Of course, when you take tax off of groceries, you're taking it out of education. That's basically where most of the sales tax goes. And, we can't do that. We don't have enough there. And, we're working on some things this year to try to improve education. So taking money, we had nowhere to take it from. We just played out.
You mentioned biting the bullet, as it were, making the tough decision, and that you and your colleagues had to make, knowing the controversy that goes along with supporting a gas tax, but also knowing that you think it will be worth that controversy in the long run.
Oh, that's true. You elected to represent the people, and especially the people in your district. And when I voted for the gas tax, a lot of them would not agree, but I was voting in their best interest. And my county, we next to I represent Limestone too. I represent Lauderdale and Limestone, and you look at the jobs that we were looking at getting in that area. We talking about 16,000 Toyota Mazda jobs in the spinoffs. We just got to have money to fund the programs that we've got going, and do what we promised those companies that we would provide them.
You talked about all those phone calls you got after your committee vote last week. Were they a mix of pro and con gas tax?
They were probably 99% against the tax, but the people I found out, and I'd spoken to two groups recently, if you can get the word out, tell them what you know, most of them be with you. And the ones that of course, yesterday and today, I've answered some calls and text, and the ones that you can talk to, you can win them over. And I think in the end result is that most of them will line up with us and see that we can't let our highways continue to deteriorate. Our roads, for the biggest part, they were built by our ancestors. And think back, all we ask to do now is keep them up. But you're gonna have to keep them up, and it takes money to do it. And none of us want a tax, especially me. But the time has come.
Representative, during this debate, opponents of the gas tax legislation have taken to labeling Republicans who supported it as fake Republicans. How do you feel about being labeled that?
Well, I've been called worse the last few days,
oh, yeah?
But it doesn't really bother me. You've got certain groups out there that are going to oppose any. And matter of fact, they even upset over the taxes they want to get rid of the taxes we got now. They don't want to just not only increase the gas tax, they want to decrease it, And all you got to do is look at other states, and it's unbelievable how well Alabama has done the last several years. What this basically does is it puts us in line with Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. We still way below some states. We way below Florida, North Carolina, some others, but at least it gets us into the playing field where we can compete for industry coming in. And that's one thing industry looks at. When you talk to Greg Canfield and his group, they're going to look at infrastructure.
The Commerce Secretary.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
I mentioned being labeled a fake Republican by some because Republicans, by and large, are conservative, fiscally conservative, and otherwise. And I guess the perception is that made a yes vote, like in your case, a little more challenging to make.
Well, it did, and especially when you got good friends that, tell you how bad you are for voting for a gas tax. But here again, I can sleep good at night, and my friends will know eventually that we help them. May not today, but in the long haul. I mean, what we got to do in Alabama is continue to grow, and we've grown, like I say, with jobs. It's unbelievable what this state is doing. Let's don't stop now. Let's continue to move forward.
And that infrastructure improvement, you think, will help that effort?
Oh, I know it will. It all this started back in the mid-'90s with Mercedes, and the infrastructure is going to bring us forward. And I think, I've been asked, how can I support putting money in Mobile Bay? Well, that's common sense. Mobile Bay is part of Alabama, and when you look at where their produce or the items come and go in Alabama that pass through there, and all we doing is widen it and deepen it, and we're going to be one of the best ports on the Gulf Coast. So it'll help us all.
Sure. How challenging was it, Representative, to seeing the divisions within your own party? Republicans seem somewhat split over this issue.
They were, and we ended up, like I say, the bill came out of the committee, unanimous vote, and that included Republicans and Democrats. Mm-hmm. And I think in the House we ended up with 84 ayes and maybe 20 noes. And
most of those noes were Republicans, I think, right?
That's true. They were. I think we had 2 Democrats vote against it, and the rest of them were Republicans. But, they vote your conscience, and we all got to work together, going to continue to work together and move forward.
So when you go out and meet your constituents again after this, we're past this special session and moving on to other issues, you will be able to answer your critics with a good conscience.
Oh, yeah. And I'll inform them what we've got going, especially up in our area. We, like I say, we're on a roll now, and we just got to continue on that roll. And we're bringing in high-paying jobs like you wouldn't believe, especially with Toyota Mazda and the spinoffs.